the way to determine the success of this conference is directly linked to the action that is created. This conference cannot be a conference of mere words. If no action is created through this conference, then the conference, no matter how exciting it was, is a failure. So the expectation now is that the movement, the Baha'i Youth Movement, will spread further, will become more active, more intensified, more unified, more cohesive than ever before.
We brought our children, we have 4, and we brought 2 children who aren't Baha'is, their family. And our expectation is to give them a better sense of Baha'i, a better knowledge of their identity, our children. And the children who aren't Baha'is to get a feel of what we have as Baha'is rather than what's out there in the world.
I see a world where one soul stands behind another. I see a world where people stand beside each other. Light that follows light, 2 worlds within our eyes. Love to fill each heart, love to feel inside. So don't tell me it never will be. Don't tell me it never will be. I see a child reaching out to touch the hand of her brother.
On May 24, 1844, Samuel Morse tapped out the first wireless message, "What hath God wrought?" The press would call it lightning through the heavens. The day before, in the distant land of Persia, a young man who would take the name of the Bab proclaimed to the world that he brought glad tidings to mankind, that the promised one of all ages was on his way. The one he spoke of was Baha'u'llah, who in 1863 claimed that he was the latest in the endless chain of messengers that God sends to guide man. That this was the day when men would become united and begin to build the long-awaited kingdom of heaven on earth. And in 1912, his son Abdul-Baha was greeted by a small but zealous group of Baha'is as he set foot in America after spending half his life in Persian prisons. Hailed by the press as a prophet of world peace, who would have thought it would come this far?
Good evening, and welcome to the 6th session of the Baha'i International Youth Conference.
O thou kind Lord, this gathering is turning to thee. These hearts are radiant with thy love. These minds and spirits are exhilarated by the message of thy glad tidings. O God, let this American democracy become glorious in spiritual degrees, even as it has aspired to material degrees, and render this just government victorious. Confirm this revered nation to upraise the standard of the oneness of humanity, to promulgate the most great peace, to become thereby most glorious and praiseworthy among all the nations of the world. O God, this American nation is worthy of thy favors and is deserving of thy mercy. Make it precious and near to thee through thy bounty and bestowal. Abdul-Baha.
مبارک گردید و مفتون دلبر آفاق شوید که مصداق این شعر کردیم.
Ohio State University was home to more than 4,000 youth between the ages of 14 and 25 who gathered for 4 days from across the country and around the world to discuss and share the different experiences of particular problems that all youth must face. The conference took place at the midpoint of the United Nations International Year of Youth, a year during which governments examined what the youth had available to them now and what the world they will inherit just might look like. While 1985 may have looked bad, these youth were here to focus their energies on a worldwide attempt at universal peace, an attempt which only youthful idealism could take seriously. But as the late Nelson Rockefeller said, it is essential that we enable young people to see themselves as participants in one of the most exciting eras of history, and to have a sense of purpose in relation to it.
I'd like to, at this moment, call out our special guest tree for the evening. And here it is, the Baha'i National Youth Committee tree. You will notice that there are all over here different numbers with oranges are because the National Youth Committee office is located in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and they drew this tree up. So they decided to put oranges on it. We have some numbers such as Houston, Texas planted 5. But they were 5 big ones. Ohio planted somewhere near 4,000.
The tree planting project proposed by the UN was one activity which the American Baha'i National Youth Committee took to heart. Here was an opportunity not only to serve today's society, but to also pay living tribute to the early martyrs of the Baha'i faith.
Those trees were in memory of the recent martyrs of the faith, and it was a very moving experience to know that you were planting each tree represented a Baha'i just like the ones that were planting those trees. And there were many people at this specific service, and you could look over the hills of people and trees and realize truly the magnitude of the sacrifices that have been made in very recent times. The National Youth Committee set a goal of planting 20,000 trees in the United States. This was in commemoration of the early Babis who had given their life. And as you heard on the slideshow the other day, we succeeded that goal, and we're now up to about 21,000.
While all religions have a history of martyrdom, Baha'is today are still being persecuted in their homeland of Iran, and world leaders, including President Reagan, have publicly recognized the problem. Now the conference allowed other non-Baha'is to share their views with the Baha'i youth.
We will have to confine ourselves to a purely symbolic gift. Simply a paragraph, a statement from the National Spiritual Assembly in excellent calligraphy. But it really is the sentiment that matters. And we felt that nothing would symbolize the event and the honor, the tribute that we are paying to Jim Leach more than having the scroll brought out and handed him by an 8-year-old boy whose father was a member of the Spiritual Assembly of the Baha'is of Tehran, and who gave his life, who was put to death by the persecutors of the Baha'is. And now Payam Yavari will come and bring the scroll, which he will present.
Actually, Toynbee said, the great divisions in the world today are still based upon religion, and the likeliest cause of conflict are those based around religious dogma. As a country, we got a lesson in Toynbeeism last week when 39 Americans were held hostage in Beirut. We got a lesson 2 years ago with an ill-conceived intervention in Lebanon, which very likely precipitated the hostage crisis last week. And we got a lesson 5 years ago when Iranian authorities allowed our embassy to be assaulted and our citizens held captive for better than a year. But the question I think Americans must ask, and more importantly, all citizens of the world must ask, is are these lessons being paid attention to, and are we looking seriously at the right problems? After all, we had 100 Americans held hostage to international events, and these 100 Americans pale in significance to the 350,000 Iranians held hostage to their convictions since 1979. These committed Baha'i have been denied the ultimate human right, the right to witness God as their conscience dictates. They've been beaten, they've been imprisoned, they've been tortured, they've been killed. Their holy places have been desecrated, their young persecuted, their leaders spirited away in the middle of the night. Yet they have kept the faith. And I doubt if there's a prouder person in this room than that young boy who gave me that scroll.
Are you concerned with world problems and
Yeah, I think this religion has gotten me a little bit more concerned, makes me more aware of what's going on. That everybody here is concerned. That's also a big part of it. They're worried about what's going to happen to the world.
It makes a difference to them what's happening. They're not just standing around saying, oh, great, who cares? It does make a difference to them.
I'm the youngest one in the state senate. Now, I was elected to the Ohio House when I was 24 years old, so I got involved in the political process at a young age, and I know that youth can move the world, be it in the Ohio legislature or be it where you're at. And I think the one thing you have to remember, it's mandatory to remember, is that you have to train, you have to guide yourself, you have to listen to your elders, but more importantly, as Baha'is, you have to understand your religion, understand life, understand what is going on in Iran, why it is occurring, why it has happened. No one wants to die. No one wants to give up their life. But as we sit here tonight, ironically, on Independence Day, the day that allows for, in this country, religious freedom to be practiced everywhere across this great country. As we sit here, people have, as you know, given up their lives and paid the supreme sacrifice so that the religion can continue on, so that you can be here tonight, so that you can learn, take that guidance from the elders and what's occurring by the community in Iran of Baha'is, and take it forth to make the world a better place.
One particular group called the LA Workshop is making the world a better place by showing that racial harmony is better than racial prejudice. By taking their energy off the streets and putting it into dance, music, and self-discipline, they have become an example to all youth.
Kind of how the workshop started is, just getting people off the street. Yeah. But within our workshop, for them to come, he said, okay, these are certain rules you have to, live by.
No drinking.
No drinking, you can't come here high, you can't, all these things, which was a Baha'i standard. That when they first got into it, they didn't realize it. In fact, I believe 99% of the people became Baha'is, the youth, at that time. In fact, we invite non-Baha'is in the workshop all the time. In fact, I've brought in several friends, and they become Baha'is later on.
Yeah, Baha'u'llah came for everybody, not just to Baha'is. So we feel that this particular teaching method is not just for proclaiming the faith, but is also a good tool for deepening the Baha'i youth as a whole. It teaches you how to work with other people and how to, a lot of prejudice stems from not understanding or not being able to be with someone else. But when you're in, like, say, the workshop, you have to get along with everyone, no matter what the problem could possibly be. No. Okay.
Yeah, last night when they did the Los Angeles Baha'i Youth Workshop, when they did the black and white dance, that really showed it was portraying of gang war, of black against white, and then they bring out a couple who dances who are seen to be both black and white, neither race really. That was, I'd say, the most powerful statement for racial unity, and they never spoke. All they did was dance.
Everyone calls it the black and white dance. But we call it the unity dance because the end result is both sides are unified. At the beginning, everything is separated, as you can probably see in this next clip.
So what is Baha'i? Is it a club, a social movement, a cult, or is it really religion? On a personal level, the spiritual truth that Baha'is accept is the same as Christians, Jews, Muslims, and all other great religions. The difference lies within the faith, where there is no clergy, and rather all Baha'is must bear the burden of participating in the process of educating and governing themselves, where the actual structure eliminates positions of power and requires all individuals to bring their unique talents together as equals for the benefit of all.
We're missing a few of our other group members this evening. But I would like to introduce my band. On piano, Jack Lenz.
Jack Lenz and Doug Cameron are two Canadian Baha'is who, through their talents in music and video, have brought the story of Mona to both Canada and the United States. Mona was a 16-year-old Iranian Baha'i who, along with 9 other Baha'i women, was executed on June 16, 1983. Her unwillingness to recant her faith was shared by the others, but Mona was only 16, a real girl, and although she wasn't able to attend the conference, her presence was felt by those who were.
She was a 16-year-old girl living in a land so cruel. She said, "This is where I've got to be." Taken in the night, her heart full of light. She said, "This is where I've got to be." How can I tell you? How could she be so young to know the truth in all her dreams? To stand before them, to hear them say, save your life and throw your faith away. Oh, with the children, send your love to me, and all around the world we'll go dancing. With the children, send your love to me, and every precious moment you'll be dancing. Every precious moment you'll be free. I can see her in my heart. The whole world was falling apart. She said, this is where I've got to be. A captive in the light. A love that burns so bright. This is where I've got to be. When they asked her, what could she say? She said, you can't break my heart. You can't take my faith away. And when they told her the price that she would pay, she said, take my life, take it all away. All away. Moment with the children, send your love to me. All around the world, I see you dancing. Moment with the children, send your love to me. Every precious moment, you'll be dancing. Every precious moment, you'll be free.
I only want to say one short thing, and that's because it moved me so much for the first time. I guess because that's the story that I heard from Ruhi. The 3 days seemed like an illusion, and I guess the reality just hit me a few minutes ago. Dear friends, the reason Mona was executed was because of her knowledge of the faith and her deepness in the faith. They knew she would be a great teacher, and they said this, and that's why they executed her. It is very important, as Jack mentioned, to immerse yourselves in these beloved writings so you understand what we've been given. Fervor will carry you only so far. It's the knowledge of God that carries you the rest of the way. Please deepen in the Baha'i faith. That's the lesson that I learned.
As the final hours of the conference came to a close, Baha'is left to return to California, New York, Texas, and Canada, bringing with them a promise of unity and world peace, for these youth will someday inherit the world. Each Baha'i would take with him maybe one part of the conference, but as a whole, each one could feel part of a growing community, where freedom and the knowledge of future enlightenment sits within their hands. For some, it was a time to meet and make new friends, others to rekindle old relationships. But for most, the 4 days made them older and wiser about their roles, not only in their own Baha'i community, but within society as well. It was a time for growth. And as Khalil Gibran's prophet told the adults of their children, you may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you, for life goes not backwards, nor tarries with yesterday.
If I can borrow a phrase from our Christian brethren, praise God. Hallelujah. Okay, that was all right. You guys are marvelous.